did Jesus learn how to meditate? Is that the question?
Yes. Come on, people.
Didn't he go to India?
No, we didn't have to go to, he learned how to meditate before he was Jesus. This notion of him going to India is ridiculous. First of all, do you guys know how expensive it would have been for him to travel to India from the Middle East? He was a poor carpenter. He was not a wealthy merchant, a magnate, like a bajillionaire could travel to India. And people weren't donating money to him to get him to, it'd be ridiculously expensive and take forever. So he didn't have to go. Plus, my friend Saint Stephen, who I know who is today, was talking with Jesus when Jesus was a teenager. So there was, there's people who remember being with Jesus. Just because it isn't in the Bible doesn't mean that the Bible is not a historical account of everything. So get that out of your head. No, come on, guys. Nobody knows where Jesus. How
Jesus was born knowing that. That's how he was.
Well, he was born knowing that, but where did he probably get exposure to it before he was Jesus?
Past lives, probably.
Well, no. Yeah, maybe. Come on,
in
guys.
a synagogue? In a synagogue?
No, guys. You guys, how many of you guys, how many of you guys have watched the 30th November talk? How many of you guys have listened to me tell you who's a member of the movement? How many slides have you seen when I put up
John the Baptist, Maharishi?
Who's a member of the movement?
John the Baptist.
Yeah, Maharishi.
Maharishi.
Who else? There's 15 or 20 others. You've watched the 30th November. You heard George. How many times did you hear George talk about the Holy Tradition?
Holy Tradition, yeah.
Who's a member of the Holy Tradition, Stokes? Stokes, you come out of the TM organization. You know.
Shankara.
Yeah.
Gurudev.
Gurudev, thank you, Shankara. Gurudev, Swami Brahmananda Saraswati is Gurudev. Shankara, who was Vyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, these are the progenitors of the Vedic tradition and and Buddhism. These are the founders of Buddhism and Hinduism. Okay, those are members of the movement. Was Jesus a member of the movement? Yes. Was Jesus hanging out with all of the above for 10,000 years or 8,000 years before he was Jesus?
Yeah, he was.
So why does he need to go to India to learn to meditate when he was with all the ancient gurus, the ones who started the whole concept of what you guys call meditation? He's hanging out with them for 8,000 years. Why does he need to do a side trip to India?
He doesn't.
Makes no sense, right?
Right.
Makes no sense unless you're believing the myth that the Bible is the accurate historical account of everything that happened in Jesus's life, which is of course a farce, or that you believe that Jesus was just a carpenter and he was not really that very well developed, and that he really didn't know much about anything until he took classes in meditation and went to India or Egypt and studied in some mystery school, and he was really just some Joe Blow carpenter. All right? That's the logic you have to have if you don't know about the 30th November stuff, okay? And yet people are revering Jesus, and yet this is the cognitive dissonance that blows my mind. Let's say you don't know anything about 30th November. Okay, fine. But you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and he has all these incredible powers, and he could do all these miracles and all this stuff. And yet you think he's a dumbass who doesn't know anything about turning within and connecting with himself, which is what meditation is. Okay? How does that even make sense? How does that make sense? This is the discernment that I'm trying to teach you guys, to see the flaws in your own thinking. If you don't see that flaw in your own thinking, how are you going to go forward and continue to discern other people's thinking and where their thinking is off? You see? Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
right? Jesus cannot be the Jesus all of you guys have followed through church and be some dumbass who doesn't know anything about meditation or how to connect with himself inside, even if you didn't know anything about the 30th November talk and the movement. That's flawed thinking on your own part. That's you blindly following what somebody said in church, and then somebody says he went to Egypt. Oh, okay. And somebody went to India. Oh, okay. It makes no sense that he would have to do that if you believe him to be this powerful being that you believe him to be. Right?
It would have been extremely difficult to go to Egypt. There's no way he would, I mean, to go to India, so there's no way he would have done that. They didn't have the travel. He couldn't get on a 747 somewhere.
And to even get on a caravan to go, you have to pay them a lot of money to take you. So that George and I had this discussion, and George said that. He said, do people realize how expensive such a trip would be? Jesus was not a wealthy person. And even Mary Magdalene, who had money, she didn't have enough money to give to Jesus to travel to India. It's just like, let's give this guy a first-class ticket to go to India so he can not be such a dumbass and he can learn how to meditate and come back and teach people. Really? No. He's an incredibly evolved being already before he met any of us. And he was already 8,000 years hanging out, now that we know from 30th November talk, hanging out with all these gurus.